see them going to become champions. Thought they had it won. The wish of the world had turned grey, and now it's known as a Celtic way. Wave for the ball from side to side, and until they try to hide, the wave for the ball from front to back. Attack, 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 sets me champion. And the heat of Lisbon, the buzzing and the blows.
Good evening, welcome to Celtic Rumours TV, Bawz and Bovril podcast. This is episode number 126. I'm Mark. It's just me tonight. We've had to suspend Paul because his rants over the last few weeks that he's been put on the bench and he's dropped for the squad to calms himself down a wee bit. So it's just me and Terence. If anybody wants to come on to the Bletherways, I'll put the link in the box shortly. But first, the links to everything, we're forum, we're CelticRumours.co.uk and everything, that's in the description box below. Our Discord, everything's in that below. Some shout outs to guys for the formal, Tim Alloy, Richie at Glasgow Green, wee John, I don't know if John's listening, I see if he's coming on, but he's too busy tonight. Who's in Bobby, evening Bobby, Jabba, my missus, they're Mikey on as well, evening Mikey, thanks for coming in. Tonight we'll just a wee blather between us about the Ange situation and whether we think he's going to go or what we think's going to happen, and talk a wee bit about the Morris Cup final. So, what do you think, Terence, of this Ange situation, bud?
I was saying, as I was saying to you the other day, Mark, good evening to everyone, obviously. I think he's gone. I just think he's going to just have that vibe that he's going to go and take the Spurs job. I think the lure of London as well, from a family side of it, it seems to always be massive for everyone, whether it's a player or a manager. You always hear that kind of draw down there. Just, I don't know. I saw something there recently in the. Do you know, is it Simon Ferry? Is that the right guy with the open ball thing or something like that?
Open goal.
Open ball thing, yeah. Yeah, and basically one of the quotes that he was talking to Postecoglou, and he was saying about the Champions League, and Postecoglou was basically stated that any player that plays in the Champions League, Celtic can't afford them. We can't afford to buy them, or we wouldn't be buying them, or we can't afford to buy them, or something along the lines like that. And to me, I was kind of looking at it, reading it, kind of going, that doesn't sound promising to me. Where you've got the manager going, well, we can't afford to buy any player that plays in the Champions League.
I've got to disagree with that, Terence. If you've got the proper scouting in that in place, I mean, I'm not talking about the top level kind of Champions League teams, but at the kind of lower, at our kind of level in the Champions League, there's got to be players out there that we can afford.
Oh, no, I agree with what you're saying, Mark, but this is what Postecoglou said. This is what when I'm reading stuff like this, it's not something I would have heard him say 12 months ago. It doesn't appear to be something that I think I'd hear him say 12 months ago. And it kind of, because I'd be the same as you, bar realistically the top two teams that are drawn in all the groups, the third and fourth teams, Celtic could easily afford players from the third tier, the third and fourth teams.
Looking about our levels,
Yeah, 100%. They could easily afford. They could, if it was, for argument's sake, if Malmo are in it, or Ghent are in it, or Sparta Prague are in it, you know, or Copenhagen are in it, or AEK Athens. Celtic can afford to buy players off any of those teams. You're not good. Obviously, they can't afford a Real Madrid, Liverpool, United, you know, Man Cities. But no one's expecting that. But when I saw Postecoglou coming out with that statement, in my head, I'm kind of going, is this guy? Is it just basically not announced because obviously the cup final? But on top of it, Mark, the thing that makes no sense to me is obviously then said there's obviously people coming out saying, oh, there's a list of candidates and David Moyes is a candidate. But sure, how could David Moyes be a candidate? Must be getting a colossal of money from West Ham. They're in the Europa League final. So I don't know. I hope beyond all that I'm wrong, because I'll be honest, it would be the biggest signing Rangers would get all season if Postecoglou left.
Definitely. I don't know if I said all right to Mikey there when I saw you there. Even to Mikey, you, Dave, nice to see you. David Stalker, nice to see you as well, mate. Thanks for joining us. I'm honestly, Terence, I'm convinced that come Sunday, Monday morning or that is going to be an announcement of a new long-term contract.
Well, I hope it is, and I'd say that's the only thing that's stopping it. Obviously, the cup final. If they weren't in the cup final, we'd know by now. But obviously, they can't. They don't want to say yay or nay. I'd say in regards to obviously that he is going before the cup final, because obviously it overshadows everything. Like,
I mean, even going to Spurs. I mean, at Daniel Levy. I mean, Spurs. I don't even think they qualified for Europe this season, did they?
No, I don't think they're in Europe. No.
I mean, look at the managers that Levy's went through. See if Ange went to Spurs. I think he would be lucky to still be in a job come Christmas.
Well, that's what I said, Mark, the last day when we were chatting about it. And the one thing that surprised me about it is because obviously the relationship that Postecoglou has with Michael Nichols, which he openly admits is just perfect. Nichols runs the club side, and Postecoglou runs the football side, and everything that Postecoglou basically wanted, your man did everything in his power to give it to him, and pretty much up to date has given him. The Daniel Levy side of things, as I said the last time we were on it, there's a director of football down in Spurs. He's going to pick the players, not Postecoglou, and he's going to go, here's what you have to work with. And whether you like it or whether you don't like it or like it, these are your players. Like,
aye, I mean, he's not very few clubs he would go to like at a higher level than Celtic, and he would get the kind of the power that he's got at Celtic.
Oh, he wouldn't get it. I don't think I think he'd get it next in our Mark. I really do. No. Barn, you know.
But see, like at a club higher than us, no chance.
Every big
club
chance
in the world plays with directors of football. Do you know what I mean? Or sporting directors, whatever title you want to give them, and that's. I don't think Spurs is the right job for him, and I'd like to think that he knows that. He knows himself better than me. I'm not trying to say I know, but do you get what I mean by that?
Yeah. But I would also hope as well, though, Mark, that he would realise, like, he kind of said that he's here to do a job, and the job isn't finished. And like from his point of view, the league has been taken lovely, the cups have been taken lovely, but regardless of what anyone says, the Champions League was a big fail.
Oh, definitely. And
I don't know.
Maybe Mikey wants to jump on for a wee half hour of that, but me and Mikey were talking about this earlier on, right? And people. I mean, I'm not running Ange down because there's a chance I'm leaving and that, but we've got to look at the bigger picture. People are like, guy's been here 2 years, and people are comparing him to the likes of Jock Stein and Martin O'Neill and people like that. I mean, Gordon Strachan had a better record in Europe than Ange has.
Oh yeah, so does Neil Lennon. I would imagine.
Even Neil Lennon. I mean, you've got, and they're all going, it's great winning trebles, it's great winning trophies, stuff like that, but we should be doing that. We should be, Terence, because of the money we've got. We've probably got more money than every other team, at least in the Premier League combined, even including Rangers.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But I know, and this was someone I was talking to someone about it as well. Like, no Celtic manager is going to be judged on winning the league in Scotland or the cup. Like, I mean, no. Ronnie Dallia won cup or won the league a couple of times in Celtic. You know what I mean? So you're not going to be judged on that. You're going to be judged on what you do in Europe. And Celtic under the 2 tenures in Europe have been very, very poor. So if Postecoglou does decide to take the Spurs job, look, I wish him all the best. If he does, I'd be gutted. But in my opinion, he's in the same position. He's done the exact same as what Ronnie Dahl has done, or any of those managers back then. They might have won a league, but they've done like you can't compare him to the likes of Martin O'Neill, who got to the UEFA Cup final, who qualified for Champions League and did decent enough in the Champions League.
But even look at the difference in standards of the overall Scottish League for then to now as well. Terms.
It's massive,
back,
like.
Do you know what I mean? Back then you'd. But Dundee were signing Canigia and Ravanelli players. I know they were bastard prime, but they were still signing them. And it was. I mean, it was a better overall quality of league that the likes of Martin O'Neill, Gordon Strachan, and that were winning these kind of trophies and getting us further in Europe and stuff like that. It would be a bit of kind of. It'd be a bit of, I don't know, just to dump it when he's got a crack at the Champions League again to kind of make his... I mean, if we go in there and have a good run at the Champions League, a good run in Europe, who knows what jobs could come up? I mean, Ange's for Greece originally, isn't he? Moved to Australia. Maybe Ange doesn't want to manage in England. Maybe he prefers to manage in Spain or Germany. He's kind of that kind of world approach to football so far. Do you know what I mean? He's been like away in Australia, Japan, things like that. So who's to say that actually, the Premier League is his kind of dream move?
Oh yeah, listen, 100%. I fully agree with you on that side of it. But it's just like I think one way or another. Obviously, I imagine by Monday morning, we'll have a fair idea whether he's going or not. I really do. I think by Monday morning, it'll either be he signed a new bumper deal or he's gone out the door. You know, and then if he goes out the door, I'd not comparing like with like. But to me, I'm not saying it's like it's the same as Rodgers because that's completely different. Rodgers obviously left mid-season, but it to me it feels a little bit like it. You think he's going to be here for a lot longer, and all of a sudden, the first Premiership team that shows interest in him, and he's gone. I'm not saying he is gone, but I know.
No, I know what you're meaning. It's as if he's only done half the job that he promised he was going to do. A four bugger north, if that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, and that would be disappointing. But where would be even more disappointing, Mark, is where something that you had discussed as well there when we were talking during the week. Where does this leave Celtic? Where does this leave Celtic if Postecoglou goes? Because we had said he basically held all the cards.
Mm-hmm. Many times I say on here terms, what happens with putting all our eggs in the Ange basket, and he could have walked out and got hit with a bus tomorrow.
Yeah,
do you know do you know what I mean? Something crazy could have happened that kind of way. So, and we have put all our eggs in that basket. What direct do we just get Mark Lowell or whoever to write? You just keep doing what Ange was doing. What's a new manager going to think of that? What if a new manager comes in and decides, I don't want Kyogo up front. I prefer a big, strong 6'2" kind of striker up front.
Oh yeah, exactly. And he might come in, with a completely different template and go, your man, that Maeda guy. He's terrible on the ball, or say Kyogo's too small for me, and this guy, and all of a sudden, for me, Postecoglou brought in a big core of players that obviously he's pretty much gone. Particularly Japanese guys. Definitely, we need him. As you said, if he goes and a new manager comes in, where does that leave all? Where does that leave all these players? And for me, what happens is, again, is, as you said, it's the template that Celtic have is basically is that ripped up and we start again. It's I don't know, because it's crazy. It's crazy for me that if it is a case that he does go, and the other day, like, the vibes were in my head that he was going, and I genuinely hope I'm wrong, like, because, like, realistically, if he's to sit down and look at it, like, you're going to a club who the head man, the chief executive, has a career of not getting on with their managers, and top class managers, which are Mourinho's and Conte. He doesn't have an issue with sacking them. He has the final say. He has the main call. Whatever he says goes. And then even if you hear the general vibe, a lot of Spurs fans have kind of put out the thing, why are we getting a manager from Scotland and all this and blah, 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 all that stuff. As opposed to, if you look at Postecoglou, whatever you want at Celtic, within obviously their remit, you can have. We'll back you. The club love you. The fans adore you. You're bringing all, like, if you go through all the thing. He brought in the sport. He brought in Mark Lawwell. He brought in the sports science guy. He brought in Harry Kuehl. Do you know, he brought in a number of different guys that he wanted, and there was no issue. Celtic, yeah, he's in, yeah, he's in, yeah, he's in, no issue whatsoever. And the same with the players. So like I mean, it would literally, to me, it would nearly, maybe I'm over exaggerating, would put us back to before he came back in, because I think Celtic would be all over the place.
Aye, it would be an absolute disarray, in my opinion, terms, for that simple reason. There's nobody there to run the ship.
Take the reins, like. No, and you know, and all
evening, James, thanks for coming in again, mate. Nice to see you, bud.
And what did they do? Did they turn to, for argument's sake, John Kennedy and say, look, you keep doing what you're doing till we find someone suitable? But you know, I mean, like, who's like if you've got a manager that's willing to walk away from the Champions League, where they all say they all want to manage teams in the Champions League, to walk away from a team in the Champions League that could potentially have won a treble, to go to a team that's a good bit down the table in Spurs. I don't know the kind of finances they have. Like, you have to look at the likes of City, Liverpool, Newcastle now, Man United, Chelsea. They all seem to have Arsenal. They all seem to have a hell of a lot more money than Spurs. I could be wrong. And there's Harry Kane. There's Harry Kane. Will he still be there? I don't know.
Well, it looks as if Harry Kane's leaving. And I mean, Mikey, were talking about it earlier on. Right, imagine, right, I said to Mikey, what players do you think he would come back in for? And he said one of them would be Kyogo. And I was like, they're going to sell Harry Kane and replace him with Kyogo.
It'd be war.
Can you imagine the Spurs fans' reaction to that?
Yeah,
I mean, he take him, but saying Kyogo and Tati maybe, but I don't see anybody. I mean, Carter Vickers, I don't think Carter Vickers could cut it in the Premier League because he's.
But sure, he was let go from Spurs, like.
And that's why none of the Premier League teams would take a punt on him, because he's lack of height.
Yeah. I mean, but you're Mark, we've always had this discussion, like, slightly off the mark, but when the same thing was said when Rodgers left, the same thing when Gerrard left the other side. They're going to take loads of players. There wasn't one player from both sides that was taken, like, that I can recall it.
That's true. I think Rodgers tried to sign a couple of players, but it was meant to be part of his kind of severance deal, was that he couldn't try and sign them for a year or something like that.
Yeah, but he might have looked at Edward or possibly McGregor. But I'm saying but he still didn't go for them. No more than, for argument's sake, I'm only just bringing it up as Gerrard left and he went to Villa. Like, neither the two of them went to top flight sides. Do you know what I mean?
But they were expecting Gerrard to come back in with a £20 million offer for the likes of Morelos and players like that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they were expecting that to kind of come in from Morelos and Kent and all these guys. And Celtic people were expecting, he's going to definitely come back in for, if it was Dembele and all these other guys. And they didn't.
That comes back down to the fact that it's not the managers that are signing these players.
Yeah, and that's my point. Postecoglou would have nothing to do with it.
Gerrard might have went down to Aston Villa and said, Morelos, he might not be the fittest, blah, but he knows where the goal is. He'll score his goals, and maybe Aston Villa guy. Look at the data, look at the numbers. Why are we signing him? Do you know what I mean?
But
even if fans went down to Spurs and they did want to sign Kyogo, maybe the numbers don't add up, and Spurs would be like, we're not even wasting 10, 15, 20 million or whatever on him.
But that's it. That would be exactly the point, because the prime example through all the arguments will always be for me is Van Dijk. Van Dijk was offered to all of them, and they were all like, we're not sure he would be that good. He had to go to Southampton, and then when he went to Southampton and had one season, they were going. It was basically, we'll give you 75 million, we'll give you 80 million, we'll give you whatever you want for him. 12 months previous, Celtic were offering him to teams down there, and they were like, he's at Celtic, you know what I mean? Maybe he's probably not that good because he's playing in Scotland and blah blah. And you're 100% right, Mark, with the Kyogo or the Hattie.
I've said this before. I don't know if I've said it on here, but I've spoke about it, I'm sure, to Mikey and that. For me, Celtic fans are a bit misty-eyed about Van Dijk. I mean, he was a great player, but he wasn't. He knew he didn't need to play at 100% for us. Do you know? You get what I'm meaning with that terms? He was a great player for us, but he could have been. He didn't need to up his game.
Oh, big time, yeah.
I mean, he did. He strolled through the Scottish game. He probably looked a bit lazy at times. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. But
Yeah.
that's because he could get away with that. But it just says a lot of them. But
There's
the big
huge
teams.
snobbery down there.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I see Barry Ferguson had a pop about it. JFP put something up in the forum about it that Barry Ferguson had said, and it was spot on. Just in general, I mean, this is a guy. I mean, he's played down in England, so he saw it firsthand probably for his time at Blackburn. That there's just this pure ignorance of Scotland. But I mean, I've got to remember some of the best players that England ever seen came out of Scotland. Kenny Dalglish, I mean, Kenny Dalglish, Souness, guys like that. Do you know what I mean? It's as you say, it's just so this kind of ignorance. It's a lack of understanding, Mikey. Mikey Terence. It's a lack of understanding of football in general, I think.
But you see, the further it goes on,
unless they've heard, I mean, a big star player on FIFA or this or that, the English game's no interested. I mean, you see on Twitter, you can see players, fans for clubs in the. Look, slagging their own club, but what are we looking at players for France for? What are we looking at this guy? Do you know what I mean? It's just pure pig ignorance, as if it's not a superstar costing £50 fucking million.
Yeah. The prime example of that, Mark, would be the Japanese lad was with Brighton that Celtic were trying to sign.
Aye.
He's now worth 50 million.
Aye, and if Celtic had signed him, he'd only be worth 15 or 20.
At the most.
Aye.
But he's gone to Brighton. He's had a great season. Brighton have done really well. Oh, this guy's quality. He's had a great season in the Premier League. He's worth 50 million. And that's the asking price. It could be more, but it was 50 million or more. You know, and that's the difference. If Kyogo and had gone, or Postecoglou did leave and Kyogo went down there, and for argument's sake, they were all, oh my God, this guy, and he scored 14 goals in the Premier League. They'd be going, this guy's unbelievable. We got him for the steal off Celtic for only 10 million.
Aye, definitely, aye.
You know,
that nudge in the Bodo Glimt manager, that's what I mentioned him to Mike earlier on. That's the kind of guy I would like to go for.
The way they played football in the 2 games against Celtic was absolutely out of this world, and because they came from the fullbacks and it was quick, it was fast, it was accurate. And listen, the other side of it as well, Mark. If you looked at the players they had, they played a kind of a holding midfielder fella and their centre backs. There was a lot of big units on the side, and who could all play. They could all play ball. Like, I mean, I know the guy that was under the wing who scored, I think, 2 goals against Celtic. I know there was talks of him. I think he went to Roma or something. And he went to Roma quite reasonable. But the problem is, like, if Celtic are going, but I'd like that manager would be a guy you'd definitely be kind of looking at along the lines. Like I saw some of the names that were linked. It was the normal Dave Moyes, Steve Clark. A few other than here, they were going like, lads, seriously. Like, I mean,
Rodgers back.
It'd be a hard one, wouldn't it?
I think so. Aye.
It'd be. I think if Rodgers had finished out the season, won the cup, and then left to Leicester, and then he was out of a job and potentially come back, I think it's a bit. You'd probably be a little bit more. Yeah, that could work. That could be okay, but not the way he left. And also, Mark, for me, not the way the football was when he left. The football when he left was dire. Like it was so slow. By the time Rodgers left, it was real. Pass over, pass back. Pass over, pass back. It was like the pace.
We've seen a lot of that in the last 6 months under Ange as well. To be fair to her.
We have in certain games, Mark. I would agree with you. We have in certain games, but at the same time, in a lot of games that, like, I wouldn't count any really the games after the league was won, and I know in a couple of games it has, and I would, as I said, look, there's going to be peaks and troughs, but for me, in the last year of Rodgers, it was the whole season was like that. I thought the whole season was very, like, it was a lot of Ira was passing it over and back with whoever was the other centre back with him at the time. You know, it wasn't as as fluent as it was beforehand. Like, you know.
I don't think maybe we kind of realise how maybe fractured the full setup was in Rodgers these last few months. Do you know what I mean? Him and Lowe weren't they? I don't think they were talking in talking terms much of Rodgers these last few months. Do you know what I mean? That was a kind of relationship. So I think that may be a bit of a stumbling block to Rodgers coming back.
Well, your man's a chairman, like. Your man's chairman, but yeah, exactly. And the fact that as well, though, Mark, like Rodgers, the reason Rodgers left Celtic was the fact that he couldn't sign ABC, for argument's sake. There was a big scandal of this Italian fella that was apparently on the plane, landed in Glasgow airport. The deal broke down because the story is Celtic were saying no, we're only going to give you $1 million less, and your man was basically get back on the plane and come back over.
The fullback, that was a fullback.
Yeah,
I can't mind his name. I know who you're talking about.
I don't know, was it Panucci or something like that, or something name like that? But
Panucci, something like that.
Yeah,
but I think not sorry when you go to.
No, go on, work away, Mark.
Oh, no, all I was going to say was, I think if Rodgers did come back, I'd like to think, well, is he just waiting in another Premier job coming up, or is he going to maybe get a bit of fire back in his belly and realise how good he had it at Celtic?
I think the first one.
It just biding his time for another crack at another bigger job.
Yeah, couldn't you put it this way? Could you see Brendan Rodgers basically staying at Celtic for 4 or 5, 6 years?
Nah, no. To be honest, no, really. Plus, as well, he's always said himself that he fancies a crack at managing in Spain.
Yeah. So
if a Spanish job came up, would he be off if that came up?
He probably would, if it's a Seville job or something like that.
Even if he was here, if he did come back and he was here a year, 2 year, 3 year, there would always be in the middle. It would always be a wee niggling thought in the back of your head. Am I going to wake up tomorrow morning? Brendan Rodgers has done another bunk into it. He broke the kind of trust, the bond of trust that fans should have with a manager kind of thing.
Oh yeah, but see, Mark, as well, you see, you have to look at if a Rodgers was considered, you would have to look at the off the field implications if you're Celtic, because you'd get fans that are going, "There's no fucking way there's no way I'm supporting Celtic if they get him in. There's no way I'm going to like he basically he walked out. There's no question about it. He walked out.
Sneaked out.
And a lot of fans have. Oh, don't forget that. Like there was even a rumor, an alleged rumor that his uncles from up north haven't even spoken to him as a result of it.
I've heard that as well. Aye.
So like, well, I mean, if there was an announcement that looks like Brendan Rodgers is going to be appointed Celtic manager, I have no doubt there'd be a protest outside Celtic Park to say we don't want him as manager. And season tickets and all that, people might just go, well, if he's going to be manager, I'm not going in. I don't want him as the manager of Celtic. He walked out in Celtic. He could do that in 6 months' time again. The only thing I could think of is if the likes of...
I'm not saying I want. I'm just putting...
Oh, no, I know. You're just using that as an example, yeah. Oh, I get you.
But as me and Mikey were saying earlier as well, he's available. I mean, name another manager, the new... you've got to say Rodgers is a quote-unquote top manager. Do you know what I mean? He's worked in the Premier League, nearly won the league with Liverpool, blah, blah, blah. But, there I forgot what I was going to say now.
You were saying name another available manager?
Oh, there'd be no compensation, no nothing like that. There's no, what other managers, that's why I'm just throwing Rodgers in the mix kind of thing.
But the argument...
Rodgers is still in the mix for the Spurs job.
Oh yeah, but that was an argument that was given by neither of the two of these individuals I would particularly would listen to much anyway. But I know that the two boys that were kicked off Sky Sports, and was it Andy Gray and Richard Keys?
Aye.
Yeah, they both were basically going, how can Spurs be considering Postecoglou when Rodgers is there? And their argument was he's won more than Postecoglou, if not certainly the same, if not more. How can Spurs not consider a guy that nearly won the Premier League with Liverpool as opposed to a guy who's winning in Scotland? Because the problem is, again, in Scotland is if you're a Celtic manager or you're the Rangers manager, if you win the league and a cup or so, that's basically considered you've done your job. You've done what we've expected you to do. It's where any of these managers are going to be judged. It's in Europe.
Aye.
You know, and that's the problem. If Postecoglou had a cracking run in the Champions League this year, and he got out of the group and he got out of third, he got third for argument's sake, or even snuck second, and he got into the last 16 or the last 8, or even he got into the last 8 or the last 4 in the Europa League, you could say, yeah, I can understand Spurs going for him.
You could, if you can do that with Celtic, what can you do with a team with a higher budget? Aye, that's common sense. Aye,
But
I think again, Spurs. I've seen people just even like top journalists just saying Spurs is just a football club that they can't get their head around how it works and how it's run. Do you know what I mean? Because I've even seen was it Daniel Levy that came out with it, or was it Harry Kane that came out with it? They talk about potential signings in that. Harry Kane's got a say in who Spurs signing that meant to be.
Yeah. But that's probably part of his contract, Mark. That's probably part of the reason why but you said it. Was it you said it or someone said it the other day? If you're England captain,
I said that the other night.
You said it. You have basically massive power, and he's obviously the England captain. So, like, he could go to Spurs as well. If I'm not involved in all this, who we signing and who I think should be playing for us, I want out of here. I'm good luck. And maybe that's part of the deal that they have. Look, we're thinking of signing these guys. You're basically part of the panel when we're signing. Who do we want to sign? But it could come back to the point that you said at the start of it, Mark. They have director of football. Postecoglou will not go down there and have a tenth of the power that he has at Celtic.
No.
He'd be basically going, here's the players to train, you train them.
Aye, because Spurs they spend millions every year on like training their youth players, the coaching, all the sports science stuff, blah blah blah. All they want is somebody to come in and run their first team. That's basically it. And if they get in and they don't like even toe the party line, they just discard it. And I mean, see, right, Klopp's meant to be leaving Liverpool next summer. With a good European run, could Ange get a chance at a Liverpool job? It's a bit.
I think that's a bit fair now. I think that's I think that's out of the league, to be honest. Because with the greatest respect, I know Rodgers was in that position, but I keep looking at if you look at most managers that leave Scotland, if they've get any job, the vast majority of them outside Celtic and Rangers, if they leave, they're going to Championship at best or below that.
What about Arsenal?
Yeah, here's
the scenario, right? I mean, this is just pure speculation and nonsense that comes into my head, right? But what if next summer Pep leaves Man City, Arteta moves to Man City, and Arsenal job's up for grabs?
Well, if Postecoglou had a good run.
But Arsenal's maybe a kind of better fit for Postecoglou. Do you get what I mean by that, rather than Spurs?
Yeah. But if Postecoglou stayed with Celtic next season and did well, won the league, regardless if he even wins a cup, if he doesn't, then I wouldn't worry about it. But if he wins the league, which is the main thing, maybe he wins a cup, but has a good run in the Champions, does well in the Champions League, finishes second or third, gets into the Europa League or the Champions League and gets to the next round of the Champions League, or has a good run in the Europa League, and an Arsenal job is up, I could go, yeah, I can see that. But the thing that amazes me is until Postecoglou has a good run in Europe, like you have to remember, it was a Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, all three. You know, they got hosed.
That's the thing about it, Terence. I mean, even chairmen, if they're looking at managers, Postecoglou's not going to get a point took off him because we get beat with Real Madrid. Do you know what I mean? It's Celtic against Real Madrid. What do you expect the outcome to be? Unless it's an absolute shocker, we're getting beaten by a couple of goals. There's no getting away from that, really. So it's no that it's like the teams that are at our level that we should be doing better against. That for me, that's what if I was a chairman or a CEO or that's what I would be looking at. I'm not looking for a guy that's. On you go, there.
No, sorry, I was just going to say, you made a point there a while ago. I'll just throw this into the mix, right? Bodo Glint, whatever, they've probably, their manager, the year they beat Celtic, they had won their league. I think they might have won the cup. They had beaten Celtic comfortably and got they could have been quarterfinals, maybe even semi-final in the Conference League, right? So does that mean that he should be considered for the Arsenal job or the Spurs job? He has a better record in Europe. He's winning domestically in Norway.
I took a fucking hell of a beating out of that, man. I thought that was a formality playing them. Because mind terms, they were in their close season.
They were, yeah. They were 6 weeks in training and they absolutely battered Celtic. Battered them. And I sure Mark, everyone was the same. But what I'm trying to say is their manager, who played beautiful football in the games, got further in the Conference League, was obviously had a run in the Europa League. He's won his league. He's won their cups. I don't know what they've done, obviously, this season or whatever. But I'm just been devil's advocate. So you could conceivably say, would he not be a better candidate for the Spurs job than Postecoglou? But obviously, no one's going to look at a guy in Norway, or no one would have looked at Postecoglou in. I guess Spurs wouldn't have been looking at Postecoglou if he had won the title this year with Yokohama. Is it Marinos? Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't be looking at him. They're looking at him because he's at Celtic and he's winning games, and that's the reason they're looking at him. And that's why, like, I would also hope that Postecoglou kind of in himself realizes, look, this crowd gave me the chance. I know there doesn't always have to be loyalty in football. I understand that, but I would love it if it was a case that, like, he stayed on, won the cup, and continued next season. And I also think, regardless if Postecoglou does go, Mark, which I'd be devastated for, Celtic need to get rid of this 12-month rolling contract nonsense.
Aye.
Because that's a carrot for clubs as well to go, well, we don't have to give him compensation. If it doesn't work for us in 6 months, we can bin him anyway.
I mean, what was it we got? Was it 12 million? Just 12 million or something for Rodgers and whoever left with him?
Yeah, I think it was 9 million with Rodgers, and then it was add-ons and stuff. You know what I mean? But he had
for the rest of the staff that went. But that's definitely we do it with players. Why not do it with managers?
But and like, I mean, I just like I don't see a problem with going do a 2-year contract. If they want to do that to start with, do a 2-year contract. If within 6 months or 8 months you can see the change, and you could glaringly see after 6 or 7 or 8 months the way Postecoglou had transformed the club and the playing style and everything else, and won the league, when basically I don't think any of us had given him a chance. We said if he was in touching distance by Christmas, I'd be delighted. And they go on to win it. There and then they should be just going, right, there's a 4-year deal. No questions about it. There's a 4-year deal, and then go. That, like, all of a sudden, if you go to Spurs and Spurs say, we'd like to talk to him, you can talk to him, but it's going to cost you 15 million if you want him. If you want him, it's going to cost you 15 million. We have him for another 3 years. He has to honour the contract. If you want him to go, we want 15 million off you. Spurs would walk away from that. In my opinion, Spurs would walk away from that. It's Postecoglou is doing good football, but they can get him for nothing. And if they can get him for nothing, the problem is he could literally go to Spurs and by Christmas he could be gone. Because you lose 4 or 5 games, and look at Graham Potter. He was flying it with Brighton. He went to Chelsea, lost a couple of games, out the door.
But that's another poison chalice, isn't it?
It is 100%. But my point is that's what Postecoglou needs to look at. Because if it doesn't work, if he doesn't get off to a flying start, like the way Celtic lost the first 3 away games under Postecoglou, right? Fans were kind of going, we were obviously a bit annoyed with it and wasn't happy with it, but we knew, obviously, we had all knew the players there in the season that had been before, and people were annoyed but willing to give him time. He wouldn't have got that in Spurs.
No,
he'd be gone.
I mean, I'm even talking about maybe better suited jobs to him in that term. Maybe a better suited job to him, although ambition-wise it would be questionable, but it would definitely get more time, would be like at a lower level, like in pub league teams, you know what I mean? So somebody a bit nearer the bottom of the table. Where he would probably get at least maybe a year or 2, unless it was a total disaster. Do you know what I mean?
Of course it would, but as I said, you look at like Rodgers. Like, it took a long, long time for Rodgers to get the bullet. I know I'm not comparing the two managers because Rodgers would have a better CV, so to speak, in that side of it. But if you looked at how long Leicester let the Rodgers scenario go on, they let it go on a long, long time. It's different if you're
that was meant to be because they couldn't afford these payoff bit terms.
Was it? Well, I don't know, but it went on a long time.
But see, to balance the books with all the, because all that kind of payoffs come into you, like your it's no called the FIFA thing now, what's it called? The financial regulations. So the payoffs all comes into that, and it was meant to be that if Leicester paid them off, that it would affect their financial regulations and stuff like that, so they couldn't afford to pay him off, so stuck with him. And he did kind of pick it up a bit too.
Yeah, but you know,
2 minutes to evening, Kieran. Thanks very much for coming in again, mate. We just come on the night while Paul's not in, so we can have a nice wee chat without any craziness.
I think actually, by the way, I think I must say as well, hello. I think my nephew is actually Aaron O'Brien has actually said he's going to listen in tonight. So
evening,
if you are there, Aaron, nice to. I hope you're on it, Aaron. But that's the thing for me. Like, I mean, Postecoglou has to weigh up what I have now and what I'm going to, and like Conte, Mourinho. I mean, how many other managers have they gone through? Like, you know what I mean? You know, I mean, he's not going to get the time that he had at Celtic. No. He's not going to get the power that he has at Celtic, and he's not going to have the say that he has at Celtic. I mean, if it's a thing that he really wants to go and try the Premier League, then fair enough. Then, you know, but I'll be disappointed. To me, I'm not saying it's the same as Rodgers, but it will feel a bit like that to me if he goes.
I agree with that, Terence. Because I've said it before. Celtic are really lucky to have Ange, but Ange is really, really, really lucky to have Celtic. Who in England, who in Scotland, who really heard him before he came to Celtic? It does work both ways that way. And
100%. Because people can say what they want. Sorry, people can say what they want, Mark, but they're all saying, "Oh, he's part of the City Group and he went through." Yes, but if he was part of the City Group, they all knew him.
Aye.
You know, but none of them appointed him, but they still all knew him. You know, so like there was tons of other jobs that could have been, you know, came available. I said, you know what? I'm sure people in the Premier League speak to each other. You know, God, by the way, Chelsea job is struggling or this crowd or something. Well, there's a lad there. He's a good manager. He's done a good job in Japan. But like you look at years ago when Arsene Wenger came in from Japan, there was war at Arsenal.
Aye.
No, I'm not comparing like with like here with him and Ange by any stretch. But you know,
but why no? Because let's be honest here, it's the same kind of approach, the same kind of philosophy as Wenger. So I'm not comparing the levels, but I'm comparing the kind of approach and the way the two of them seem to kind of run things in that. I think that's a good comparison, Wenger and Postecoglou. I really do.
You know, and he said he came in and everyone's like, "What's this guy? He's like a school teacher. He's like a professor. He's like this, like that." And Celtic had the same slag. Oh, Ange Postecoglou, whatever they were calling him at the start. God, an Australian fella coming in and everyone laughing, joking. Oh, this guy'll be gone by Christmas and the whole lot.
Imagine what it'll be like if he does go to Spurs, but that English press will be like with him because it's magnified. I mean, look at a population in England compared to us. He would just get through all that again at a lot higher level than he did get up here. But
also like he's on massive pressure in Celtic, and I mean this, massive pressure in Celtic to win. There's no question about it. But like because if he went to the Premier League, I genuinely think to me it would even ramp up because he's going to a club that think they're much better than they actually are. And as you just said, the press would. If he lost the first 3 away games like he did with Celtic when he was the manager, he'd be touch and go whether he was going to get the bullet if he goes to Spurs. Whereas Celtic were going, look, we understand it. Look, it's my fault, and look, I'm going to get it right. Just please trust me, give me time, trust in me. And obviously the club were going, we understand, we know what you came into. We'll give you time. There's no panic. And the fans, obviously, not everyone, but the fans eventually bought into it, and then it got going. As I said, it'd be the idea of him leaving. Put it like this: the idea of him leaving would sicken me more than when Rodgers left.
Aye. I would totally agree with that, Terence. I really would. I'd be really disappointed if fans did go, for a simple reason that, but he just came in and, I mean, we go back and talk about Rodgers with Danny McGrain's story and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, Ange just came in and it just seemed to buy into the club right away.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I'm what am I? I'm 40 this year, 40 next year, isn't it? Right, in all the years, even with the Fergus McCann time, there was still the stuff with Tommy Burns and DeCanio and stuff like that. And for me, this is kind of the most stable. Apart from the Spurs carry on and all that, but between the board, the manager and the fans, this is kind of the most stable and harmony kind of thing I can ever remember Celtic being at. And
he solidified the whole thing, like.
Aye. He seems to be the kind of linchpin on that. And if he goes, a lot of that's going to fall apart as well. A lot of fans will end up blaming the board. A lot of fans will end up blaming Postecoglou. I even see people on Twitter blaming Peter Lil for it now.
I was going to say that. I was just going to say that.
Aye.
People are going to hammer him because he's chairman. They're going to go, he was involved in it anyway. He wouldn't give him a better contract. He wouldn't. He told him there wasn't money available.
But there's absolutely nothing I do to do with Peter Lil. That's not his job. Do you know what I mean? That's what people don't understand.
He's chairman is basically he'll chair the meetings. That's his job. That's all he does when there's meetings there. He's basically the man at the top of the table discussing it. It's Michael Nichols is the main man.
And you know but Peter Lowell was when he was doing Nicholson's job, the CEO.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know the difference. I think I looked up at the time, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But I mean, he's a non-executive chairman, and there's a difference between that and being like a chairman of the board as such. I'm sure I read. So
yeah, he's probably like just an honorary person.
It's a figurehead kind of idea. That's what I think.
I'd say majority of times it's Lowell is basically there, involved in meetings, and basically in only certain meetings. He's probably not involved in a lot of the meetings. The important ones were if it's the chief of finance, Michael Nichols, Postecoglou, if it's to do with a transfer. There's no way Lowell has anything to do with that.
No.
But if Celtic have a bi-weekly meeting with the board, he's going to be at that to discuss, future plans for whatever's happening to the club.
Big financial decisions and like the wage bill will increase wage bills. Talking about wage bill, right? We're at 53 million. Is it our wage bill is the new?
I think it was 56, something like that. It had been or something like that, like.
Ajax's wage bill's only 43 million.
But you see, at the same time, they get the bodies. They get all. But the thing is, you said the other night as well, Mark, is if you go through the Ajax team, and I don't have a clue about Dutch football. Michael will probably know this off the top of his head because he's dynamited all that kind of stuff. They've probably got 5 guys in their first team that have come through the Ajax Youth Academy, so they cost nothing.
Aye, and they sell them for a fortune. And
then they sell them for 20 or 30 million. They'll go. So, who Celtic have McGregor and Forrest, and if you look at the squad, they have McGregor, Forrest, Ralston, and Stephen Welch. Really, that's the only ones if I'm missing someone, but they're the only 4 that I can think that are generally involved with the first team.
Aye.
And none of them, three of the 4 of them, you wouldn't get anything for them with the greatest respect. You get a few quid. And the other one wouldn't be going anywhere because he's the captain and he's on the other side of the... James Forrest is at the end of his career. McGregor's getting close to that side of it. Stephen Welch is a lot for me, has kind of gone back a bit. I know injuries haven't helped, but he's gone back a bit. Ralston, similar. But would either of those 2 go for any great money if they transferred somewhere? No, they wouldn't.
I imagine so, no.
No, so that's why Ajax can have a bill of 48 million. Because if you've got let's say they have a Rocky or a Rocca Vata, for argument's sake, as an example of them, and he comes into the first team, you can pay him the $8,000 a week. If you sign a Joe Hart from the Premier League, for argument's sake, or something like that, when they're coming up, and you have to give them, the 40 million or the 40,000 a week, whatever it is, and this young lad can they can sign him on a 2-year deal. He's on $8,000 a week, for argument's sake, whatever, and then he might go up a little bit more, and then the second or third season, he's sold for 25 million.
Aye.
There
you Deef saying like Ben Summers. I mean, he's made a few appearances, but there's the years how many players have done that. You Deef, do you know what I mean? Young players that have come in, played a few games, and then just fell away, moved on. I mean, who was the young boy?
Ben Stokes Ben Dokes, I should say. Is it Ben Dokes? Is that his name?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
He's a prime example. He was gone to Liverpool.
But he was enticed away. He didn't fall away. I'm talking about what was a young boy. His dad died, and it kind of knocked him to 6. I think that's Aitchison.
Oh yeah, they said the forward.
Jack
Aitchison.
Aye.
The young lad.
Aye. So things like that happen all the time. I've seen so many other years, even getting back to the likes of John Paul McBride and that. These young players get a couple of games under their belt, but either get away. I mean, Andy Robertson. I never seen him play for Celtic, but everybody goes on about, we should never have get rid of him and stuff like that. But he probably never became a player he was if Celtic couldn't get rid of him.
No, but sure, you have all those scenarios. But as well too, Mark, I don't know again the Dutch league, but I imagine that there's a Dutch reserve league or B league or whatever you want to call it over there, and they don't have it in Scotland. These guys have no. These guys, we continually say it on this podcast, they have no pathway to the first team. You need to be a real standout player to basically get on the first team, or it's a combination of that, or that there's some serious injuries and you have to come in and play. Whereas if there's a reserve league and you have these guys playing, Postecoglou is watching it, and as I said before, these guys could be playing. For argument's sake, there's a reserve derby game, Glasgow derby, or Roll from derby, whatever you call it, and they're young lads are playing, and all of a sudden, we just say for argument's sake that Kent is coming back from injury for Rangers, and he's playing, or Hatat is coming back from injury like he was before the semi-final, and he's playing with Celtic. As I said, you can't tell me that a young lad playing with Hatat for 2 games in the reserves wouldn't learn an unbelievable amount to get to the level he needs to get to. Because I said that before, as some guy had said before years ago, he was playing in the reserve league like that, and they were playing against Aberdeen, and he was the centre forward, and Alex, the ex-Rangers fella, Alex McLeish, was centre back for Aberdeen at the time, coming back from injury. And he said he learned more in that 90 minutes about centre forward play than he did from any coaching or any of this stuff. So they don't have a gateway to the first team. So you have to be a real standout to get onto the team.
Aye, and plus as well, you need a manager that's going to give you that chance. I mean, it's like, Rodgers wasn't interested in any youth players. Neil Lennon wasn't interested in any youth players. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of that comes into it. And again, we kind of thought this was all part of Andy's plan. So if it does go, is that the youth development bit set back to square one? Who's running that? Who's got to take charge of that? Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, because like the powers to be could come in and decide, as you said, if Ange goes, they go, I don't fancy Steve McManus there and Darren O'Dean in that B team. They're not my cup of tea. I don't really like them. I don't know whether the managers have that much of a say, but we just say for argument's sake they do, and they're going, well, look, no, they're not doing what I'm asking them to do. I need a proper guy in there to do that, or they don't get on with, all of a sudden they don't get on with Harry Kewell, or they don't get on with Gavin Strachan, or they don't get on with the certain individuals, and they want to bring a new manager might say, well, I want to bring in all my backroom staff. So that sets back the whole thing again. Like, so I just pray. I hope, I do think he's going to go, but I pray to God that I'm wrong. That come Monday morning, I see that he signed a new contract, a new 3 or 4 year deal, and he's staying at Celtic. Just because, as I said, it would be for me the biggest signing that they would give the other side of the city if he left.
Aye. You're saying the problem is that Celtic can't afford to play young players. We need to win every game. We can only do that with the first team. I don't believe that. There's no reason that Celtic can't play a kind of a St Mirren. They kind of teams with one or two youngsters even starting the game, especially at Celtic Park. It'll be kind of struggle against St Mirren this season. I'm just using them as an example. I'm not talking about major changes to the team.
Well, bring it even, Mark. The other side of it is, and the other side of it is, for example, was it St Johnson? Celtic were something like 3-0 up or 4-0 up after about 20 minutes and had missed a penalty as well. Like, you can't tell me that they could go at half time, go, right, young Bata or young Summers, and you go, like, if Celtic can't win sitting on a young lad and are 3 or 4-0 up, you know what I mean? The game is done and dusted. Right. I don't like when I see it where they go, oh, they're bringing on young Bata or Summers and there's like 4 minutes to go and they're like 5-0 up and you're going like, what? What's that about? Like, you're 5-0 up after 5-0 up after.
They're not going to do that much. Maybe even get back to Jack H. I mean, they came on against Motherwell and
he scored.
The season he scored and stuff like that. So even when they come on and like score a goal with a couple of minutes, it doesn't mean that they've got the greatest next big thing or that, but they've got to get more time on the park to kind of learn their game. I was watching a clip today on something and it was back in was it 92 or 93 in Man United went out to Turkey to play Galatasaray. And it was absolute chaos. It was pure hell. The Polish attacked Eric Cantona with battens and everything. There were stuff in the stadium. It was absolutely craziness. And it was showing you like, it was interviews with like these clips with Giggs and Gary Neville and that talking about it. And Gary Neville says, I was only about 18 or 19 at the time. He says, and I learned more in that 90 minutes than I had playing 2 years for Man United's academy. He says, that game made me a man. Do you know what I mean? So there's things like that. Do you know what I mean? It's not just all about getting on. You've got to give them a kind of progression. You can't just throw kids in willy-nilly because they're just going to swim. They're just going to sink. Do you know what I mean? You can't just say, right, on you go, sink or swim.
Yeah, but there should be no reason, Mark. But there should be no reason, Mark, that say, for argument's sake, Celtic are playing the League Cup, and if they think, well, I think I like the Summers lad, I really like him. I think he's a good player. They're thinking, right, we're going to play him in every game in the League Cup. We're going to start him in every game in the League Cup and see what he's like. Now, like if he plays the first game and he's poor and he plays the second game and he's poor, then you can always take him out and you can go, look, you need to work on this or you need to work on it. But if he plays a game against, for argument's sake, they were playing Alaba at home and he plays and he has a good game, he's going to get bundles of confidence. Play him in the next game, like play him in the League Cup game, and bet him in that way or something like that. Even some of the cup games, like they're not, with the greatest respect, they're not generally drawn away to Rangers in the first round of the cup.
Aye.
You know, so if you're worried about the league, play him in a cup game if they're at home to Alaba or home to Falkirk or even for argument's sake, if they're in the League Cup and they're away to a team like Alaba or Falkirk or something like that, let him play in those games where basically he hasn't got 60,000 cheering from him. You've obviously got whatever the stadiums are a lot smaller, and like that. The player might learn a lot. Do you know what I mean? If he's away at one of those smaller grounds where it might only hold, Celtic might have 1,000 supporters and there might be 4,000 or 5,000 of their away supporters giving him pelters for the whole 90 minutes. Do you know what I mean? You might see a development that way.
I even don't his kind of attitude in that terms to be a bit of puff in their chest.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like that boss in Lille. I've only seen him a few times in that. He looks the part to me. Other people say he isn't, but why did we not see him towards the end of the season in the first team?
I was gonna say that like Osman Lawwell and Dane Murray, get the name right. They are both something like 6'1" and 2, and about 6'4". Celtic are putting in a 5'10" centre half. Now, if I was Bosman Law or that young Dane Murray, who basically started for played in the Europa League or Champions League for Postecoglou.
Aye.
I think, do you know what I mean? I'd be sitting there going like, I really don't have a future here. If they're putting in a 5'10" guy in a game where the league is already won. Like, what chance do I have? I'm actually a centre back. He isn't a centre back. I'm 6'2", 3, 4. He's 5'10", and he's playing, and I'm not.
Well, the big guy against St Mirren you were talking about. Who
Curtis
was it?
Main, yeah. That's what you need. That's what you need, a Bosman now. You'd have seen how good he was there then.
Aye. I said you've let him go to.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, he's been sold. Yeah, he's been sold.
Well, is it not just freed? Would you take him?
No, I don't think you would take him, to be honest. No, I like him. I like him as a unit.
The type of player he is, that could do a job for us, but no him.
Yeah. Look, Nesbitt is going to Millwall for 2.2 million or something like that. It's nonsensical that Celtic haven't intervened there somewhere along the lines of that.
The price wouldn't be 2.2 million to us, Ter. You know
that's true, but that's true. But
it wouldn't be much more. But they maybe want 3 million off for us. Do you know what I mean? But because they're selling to a team in the same league, they'd want more. Which I keep saying, know, but they're entitled to ask. Any team's entitled to ask for what they want for their player. Do you know what I mean? But
Celtic would have a few more bargaining to us in the sense of, Mark, we have a lot of surplus to requirements. Let's put it that way, politely.
Aye.
Who's to say that? Well, okay, we'll give you so and so. For argument's sake, I don't know.
McCarthy.
Exactly. Yeah, James McCarthy. There's my prime one example that I'd be going straight away. James McCarthy is a guy there that you'll be saying, well, we'll match Millwall and we'll give you James McCarthy. So, you know, if you don't ask, you'll never know.
Aye.
Even if they pushed out and said they want 3 million and James McCarthy, I'd still be going, yeah, work away. It's a good deal. You're getting a guy off the books who basically hasn't kicked the ball for Celtic, to a guy who scores goals. You know what I mean? He scores goals for Hibs. He's a solid player, and as I said, any striker worth their salt will bang in goals. And you obviously gave Lee Griffiths as a prime example of that. He was with Hibs. You know, he came to Celtic and he banged in goals all over the place. So, like, I don't know. Maybe, like, I mean, they're obviously they don't seem to be doing too much.
Maybe Nisbet doesn't fancy it, but
that could very well be the case as well, Mark. It could very well be the case that they have asked the question and he's decided, look, no, I don't fancy going down there. I'm not going to get much of a chance of kicking the ball or whatever. And look, I don't know, but it would have been interesting to see if the question had been asked. But maybe we won't know. But generally, you would see that out that Celtic have approached. It seems to always come out in Scottish football. So I'd have been amazed if Celtic approached his manager or his agent to say, look, we're interested in him. I'm sure the agent would have that in the papers or get that leaked at some stage.
It's even down to the fact as well. But I mean, even if he came to Celtic, I'd imagine he'd be getting more money sitting in the bench for Celtic than he would at Millwall.
Look at Scott Payne.
Aye.
Do you know?
Just when we're talking about like moving down to like the lower teams in England, I seen a thing the other day that they're projecting, whatever you want to call it, that over the next couple of weeks in this window, there'll be a team in the Championship down in England that will start paying a guy $100,000 a week.
I know, yeah.
Nobody in it, well, maybe guys that have been relegated down for the Premier League or that have got it, but no kind of set team in that Championship ever paid anybody $100,000 a week, and that's going to be the kind of the next barrier.
But you see,
that's just going to become. That's just going to become like the Premier League too.
But it is,
the rest of the world, the way it is in the rest of the world. That Championship will end up taking off, even like say La Liga and that, and the kind of stature. The next thing will be they're getting a Champions League spot. Win the Championship, win the playoff, and you'll get a chance to qualify for the Champions League.
But you see, Mark, you have to remember this is a team that gets relegated out of the Premier League, and what did they say? They get 95, 100 million.
Aye.
Do you know it's so you can get rid of a few of your major top earners if you've got boys on 150 grand a week or whatever or more. But if you've got 2 or 3 guys that you still want to keep and they're 100 grand, and you're getting 100 million, you can still afford to do that. And the biggest thing for them is get back as soon as you can. And all of a sudden, if you're one of those players, stick with us. I'm going to keep you on the 100 grand. I promise you, we get back to the Premier League next season, we're automatically going to, where your wage is going to go to 150,000. So I mean, it's a win-win for a player. Like,
see, most of the teams down in England see that kind of expect to be in relegation battles. They'll see their players when they sign. They've usually got a clause in it when they get relegated. I mean, sometimes it's as much as 60-70% their wages can get done, and that's why you can pick up a lot of bargains for the relegated. Well, in the English market, you can pick up a lot of bargains because these players aren't taking this drop, and they've got a kind of set transfer release stuff and all that if they get relegated.
Well, look at Ellen Lucy, for argument's sake. Was someone he on about 80,000 a week at Southampton?
Aye. It's that just craziness, isn't it? It really is.
Do you know, even we were talking and Paul was mentioning about the Irish keeper who was with Southampton. Sure, I think he was on something. He was on, again, I don't know, but I think it was over 100 grand or more, 120 grand or something like that. Like, you know, I mean, even a pay cut, like you could. Those guys aren't accessible for Celtic. They're just not, because you know how would he come up and go, right? Well, we can afford to give you 40. We can give you 40 grand. Like, I know there was the talks of the Liverpool keeper, Kelleher. You know, but there's talks that he might be leaving or whatever. But Celtic couldn't afford. Celtic could afford him, but wouldn't adjust to afford him. Maybe that's the better way of putting it.
Aye.
Kevin Kelleher. You know?
Is that goalkeeper?
Yeah.
Aye. We've not got a hope in hell of getting him in, you know.
No, there's no chance. But there's no chance. But I mean, he's got a lot of game time for Liverpool. A lot of game time, and by all accounts, Klopp loves him and doesn't want. Is there talks that he doesn't want him to leave, and he's going to be given a new contract or whatever? I don't know. As I said, I don't really listen to much of the stuff down there, but Celtic couldn't afford him. Even if Celtic said, well, if they adjusted their pay structure, said we'll give you 50 grand a week, he's on what? He's in triple. He's a triple fit. Like, you know, he's on 100,000 plus in Liverpool. Comfortable, like, you know.
But see, the thing about that, and this is the thing, Terence. See, like all these, like, I mean, what age is that young boy?
Oh, he's an EPO 22.
Right.
22, 23. Very young.
She's in 100 grand a week, you know, right? There's still only so many clubs, not just in England, but in the world, in Europe or whatever, that's going to pay a young goalkeeper that kind of money if he's not their number one choice. But do you get what I mean by that? It's like, I don't know. It's just like if you're saying, oh, we can't afford them in that, and I'm not just saying that a keeper. I don't know if I'd like Celtic to go out and break your wage budget for a goalkeeper, but it's like, look, mate, you're at Liverpool, they're giving you 100 grand a week. Come to Celtic. We can't give you 100 grand a week, but we can give you 60. But you'll be playing every week. You're in the Champions League. You'll win trophies. You'll win this in 2 or 3 years' time. You'll get a move to a bigger, richer club. We'll make money, and you'll get back up to 150, 200 grand a week.
But that should be the policy that Celtic are working on. It's like economies of scale market. Like, what was £10 5 years ago is not £10 today. And so the problem is Celtic are still living in that world where we're not going to pay any more than 40,000 for argument's sake. Well, 40,000 5 years ago is not 40,000 today. Like,
I have said that for years, Terence. Eventually, Celtic will eventually sell somebody for 20 plus million. We did. And eventually, just because of inflation and the way things go, eventually we will buy somebody for, it maybe not be next year, maybe not be 5 years, and 10 year time. Yeah. It'll be 20 million will be the 4 million signings of the day kind of thing. Aye.
And I could guarantee you as well, Mark, if Celtic did approach the likes of like Kevin Kelleher and asked him and gave him that offer, like, there's a huge factor there as well. It's an Irish lad and Celtic. And there's Lads, it's a massive draw over here in Ireland. Like most guys might support a team in the Premier League, and they'll always say, it's always Celtic, always Celtic. I guarantee if you asked Caoimhín Kelleher what two teams would he support, he'd say Liverpool and Celtic. I guarantee you.
It was Rangers director Hugh Adams, him that first broke all the stuff about kind of David Murray was there. I mean, this guy was at Rangers. He was in there with the bricks terms, man. He started after Rangers pools and everything. And back in 2000 or something, he came out with this and said that Murray wasn't run the club right, blah, blah, blah. And he said, Rangers, this thing with Rangers with this worldwide support's a myth. He says, we sent out a survey, he says, to our fans, and they sent this. He says, and 90% of the people that had been signed up to this thing didn't have a clue who it was. They didn't want it. It was nothing. He says, but you go anywhere in the world and meet somebody from Ireland and ask them who their best team is. He says, oh, it'll be Man United, it'll be Liverpool, it'll be whatever. He says, but every one of them will have some connection to Celtic. And if you ask them for money for Celtic, they'll give you that.
Oh yeah, sure. Like I was over in New York when I got married, and Celtic were playing in the morning, and the Celtic pub. There was a Celtic supporters club. No, God, yeah, she was with us when the honeymoon, but not for the match. Like, it was probably, in fairness, it was probably the second or third day of the honeymoon. So, like, you know what I mean? It's kind of finished at that stage. But
it's a bit sore, a bit raw.
That's a bit much now. But the pub was open and it was heaving with Celtic fans. I mean, supporters. But it was jammers over there, and because it's the whole Ireland Celtic, you know. But like as you said, you look at when Postecoglou and that they go to Australia, the place is thronged with Celtic fans. You know, it's no matter where you go, there'd be the fans there. Do you know what I mean? And it's not the same. Like,
what happens to this Japanese tour turns and fans goes?
Well, if Postecoglou goes, that's probably up in smoke. Like, yeah, so it is. Yeah, that looks stupid then, because what happens if Postecoglou comes in and goes, I'll buy a Kyogo and I'll buy a Hitate. We just, for argument's sake, and then you got two or three of the other, like any of the other Japanese fellas are like, obviously, that have been looked at are obviously won't be looked at anymore. And then you're looking at the other guys and they're like, all of a sudden you're going to Japan with Maeda. Oh, who else? You know, Iwata. Do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden you could be going on an Asian tour with maybe three players instead of you're having like. The bottom line is it's the manager's a draw coming from there.
He's the main attraction, isn't it? He's the kind of main attraction, just like we've done the Australian tour last year.
He's going home. You know, he's lived there for so long. It's his home. That's it. That was his home. So he's going home. They all know him. Yokohama Marinos, if that's the right name. He's going. Our boss is coming home. Ange's coming home. He's been brilliant. He's been successful abroad. Whereas they go, or whoever it is, David Moyes or blah, 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 whatever comes in and they're the manager, you're going over like it's not the same thing. It's not even remotely close to the same thing. Like,
aye. See, it's just kind of snowball effect, isn't it? If he does go, there's so many things that can just mess up for us.
Oh, listen, there's one side of Glasgow and in Ireland and Celtic fans praying he doesn't. There's the other side and they're praying, please leave. Because I keep saying it, if he leaves, it's the biggest signing that they'll have. But comfortably, and it'll be Celtic will be it'll knock Celtic for 6 in my opinion. It really will, because I just like I think it'll be more. This is more surprising to me than Rodgers buggering off.
Aye, I totally agree with that. Just
like
as I said earlier, terms just we all bought into the way he was talking, the way he was always planning for the future. Oh, we never stop, this kind of stuff, and that lies back. Gut wrenching. It will be, and it makes it honestly to himself feel a bit as if he's took us for a bit of a fool again.
I was just going to say there, Mark. the trust will be gone in any manager, because what they say, people will go, well, we've had 2 managers that have told us that they love us to death and they're going to do everything they can to make us successful, and they've bought into it, and Celtic is this and Celtic is that, and they've never felt so welcome, and the first chance they get to get the Premier League, they're gone like a bullet. So how can we believe that you're going to be any different? You know, and that's the Rodgers one. As I said, I wasn't not overly surprised. This is like surprised at the timing of it, but not overly surprised that he did leave. But if Postecoglou does go for Spurs, and I just had that aching feeling during the week that he is going to go, because the way it just seems to be, I don't know, bubbling. Like I'll be gutted, because like you, Mark, he kind of gave me the whole process of like, lads, I'm here for the long term. I'm not here for the short term.
What's it said the other week? You'll be surprised how long I'm here for. I mean, how do you interpret that?
You know, and he was nearly saying I'll be here as long as I wanted, kind of thing. You know what I mean, so to speak. Like,
see, so, I mean, well, I mean, I'll be here as long as I want it, right? So if it does go, does that mean the board's telling me don't want you anymore? I mean, you said that other people have said it. Mikey said to me today, why did they not just come out and just, I'm not going to Spurs. Just come out and say that. Look, I'm not going to Spurs.
But that's...
I mean, he said
that's the worry.
He used the same kind of words himself. We've done this dance before. But don't dance about it, Ange. Just come out and tell us the truth.
Well, that's where it makes you more sceptical, Mark. That's where it makes me more sceptical, because if Postecoglou said he wasn't going to go, for me, it would have everyone going bananas for the cup final, knowing he's not going anywhere. He's staying here. We have him next year. Everyone knows the cup final. Like, honestly, I'm sure everyone's looking forward to the cup final, but in the back of everyone's mind, everyone's going, Jesus, this is his last game. Is this his last game? And it'd be interesting to see, because for me, I think if you saw a dull, not up to speed performance by the players, I'm sure at this stage the players know where he's staying or going.
Oh, you'd like, well, see if he's not let the players know, that's a totally different kettle of fish. You've been a bit of a snidey get, is it no?
I would think it'd be very poor form if he hasn't gone to the players and said, lads, look, I'm staying, but I just don't want to announce anything till after the cup final. It's going to be announced Monday morning. I'm staying, and leave it at that. Or the other way. Sorry, look, boys, this is an offer. I'm going to Spurs on Monday morning, signing blah 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 after the cup final. But to me, if I saw a slow-paced, dull Celtic team performance starting off, in my head would be thinking like, is this the kind of signing off that the players have gone, oh, for fuck's sake, this guy, oh, sorry for swearing, sir, but that this guy has, this guy's leaving us.
If they're Bawz, right, you're apologising for swearing.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Whereas if I saw the high tempo, the high everything that was there in the Aberdeen game, I'd be in my head going, yeah, you know, there maybe I don't know, maybe I'm just looking at it completely stupidly. I don't know.
But see, like that turns. See, then I'm looking at Cal McGregor and that to be like, right, fuck him, he's going away, he's leaving, but we still need to win this cup today. Get out here and get this cup won. For Ange, no for us, for all the guys up in that stone.
Oh yeah, true. And look, I maybe I'm just looking at it completely wrong, and that I imagine, regardless of if he does decide to leave, I'm sure like McGregor will be saying that we need to win this for the fans. But I think it'll leave a very sour taste in people's mouth if he does leave, Mark. I really do. As I said, it's not to say. It's not, as I said, it won't be the same as Rodgers, but it won't be a million miles away from it either, because he kind of came with the mantra that, look, lads, I don't plan on going anywhere. I've got a project I'm going building, and I plan on being successful. And when you see me in my first year, my second year is normally better, and the third year is even better than the second year. You know, he's telling fans. He's telling fans this.
It's like the old, what is it? He's trying to build a legacy. Do you know? He's not going to get a chance to do that at Spurs or the majority of other teams. That's what I keep getting back to. For me, Angie's got to look at the kind of the grass isn't always greener. I'll end up a lot richer, which is
I'm sure you be careful what you wish for, Mark.
Aye, but is it going to be in a year's time? Is he going to be sitting there doing that? I should never have left Celtic. Because if he gets down to England, and flops, his stock's worse than it even. Do you get what I mean? Because it'll just be all the English stuff. I see, we tell you, we knew this. You couldn't bring in managers for Scotland, blah blah blah.
But at the same time, I don't know what Postecoglou's on in Celtic, right? I haven't a clue. Whatever. Would just say, I don't know, how much would he roughly be on a year, Mark? Would you think? Would he be on 2 million, 3 million a year? Was he? I don't know.
He must be on that, surely. He wouldn't be lucky to get that.
Yeah, we'll say for argument's sake he's on 3 million at Celtic. Like Spurs might only offer him 8 million, 7 million. They're not going to offer him 20 million. Like,
no.
Do you know what I mean? Like in their eyes, he's an improving manager. He's won the league in Scotland, but you'll have everyone going, sure, I could go. You can hear obviously the English normal from the Premier League will be like anyone could go up and win the league in Scotland with Celtic or Rangers. They'll give your Neil Lennon done it, Stephen Gerrard done it. They'll look at them as other managers of other clubs and blah. But, they'll give that as a template. But if they offer him, for argument's sake, he's getting 8 million from Spurs and he's getting 3 million from Celtic, for argument's sake, and Celtic are going to give him a new bumper deal, might push it to 5, say. We just, again, we're 4.5, 5 million. We just say that he goes to Spurs and he's gone after 6 months, and he stays at Celtic for the next 2 years. Like, do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, like that 8 million that you got, you might get a payoff of 5 million if you get the bullet. You're not going to get 8. You might, they might give you the full amount. You might, whatever way the contracts work, you might get 5 million at Spurs if you did get sacked. Whereas if you were at Celtic for the next 2 seasons and you do well next season, all of like, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, see as well, we're talking about the money in that there, but I mean, he's 58. He's 58 this year. My dad died when he was 58. Do you know what I mean? You get that, and he's worked that hard to get where he is. His family seem to be enjoying life in Scotland. He seems to be, what we've seen up to this past week when he's kind of into his shell a bit, whatever. But at 58-year-old, are you worrying about how much money you've got in the bank?
Well, that's the other side of it, because I saw the thing there where his house was been sold in Melbourne or somewhere like that. And it was a mansion. It was like 3.1 million or something. It was cost.
He's not poor.
He has enough to pay the lecky bill, like,
So maybe at that kind of age, maybe hopefully it is going to be more again trying to build something at Celtic rather than chase something in England for a fast buck and risking his own reputation. As I said, if he flops in England, he'll get a job or in Japan or somewhere. Somebody will give him a job, but if he flops at Spurs, he's never going to get a crack at a team of that kind of level again. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, whereas I agree with exactly, and I agree with you. And I agree with what you said a while ago. If he stayed with Celtic next season and got through the Champions League or got through a good run in the Europa League and got through to the latter stages, won a couple of games, looked really good. Celtic looked really good in the league, won the league and won a cup, and a team comes in from then down south, you'd probably go, yeah, look, I can understand it. I'd be, but for me as well too, Celtic would have a clause in place where they go, well, we have him for he signed a 4-year contract. If he's going to go, grand, but we want, as I said, 10, 12 million off he. He's 3 years left in his contract. We pay him X, Y, and Z, like, you know what I mean?
There was something else as well. When Ange came in, he did. Right, there was conflicting stories. A boy for Australia said he'd done his UEFA Pro licenses, but then it came out and UEFA had said that he didn't have it, and then it came out that he'd done them in Australia but hadn't renewed them or something. There was something, and see if he's not got that UEFA Pro license, he's not got a hope in hell of getting the Spurs job.
Yeah, because I remember they said at the time that I think John
Aye.
Kennedy had to run the ship, so to speak, till
Aye,
it was all cleared. Like.
we applied for some kind of exemption certificate or something like that, and it's still even googling it. I tried to find it today. There's no definitive answer whether he's got the kind of UEFA Pro license that you need to manage down in the pub league. Without that, he's no got a hope of getting that job.
Yeah, and 100%. But like, it's also marked like he surely has to look at it and go, okay, like the probability of what I've built so far and the probability of success in Celtic next year is high. Certainly, you know, with the cups and the leagues, you're going to be within touching distance of every one of them. What is my probability of winning anything in Spurs? And I'd imagine it's pretty low, and getting lower as the days goes on because you've got all these teams that are getting filthy rich down there with Newcastle's and obviously the rest of the Man Cities and that they're not going to be able to compete with them. Like, I mean, does he want to go to a team that isn't in Europe next year, like struggles in the Premier League with the greatest respect? They're not going to finish top four unless Dan Levy goes to him, well, I have 350 million there that I'm going to give you. If he's not going to give that, if they're not going to give that to the likes of Conte and Mourinho and top flight managers, no disrespect meant to Ange, but top flight managers. Like
proven top flight managers, aye.
You're talking about guys who've won Champions Leagues. Do you know what I mean? Either players or managers. You know, Conte's won it certainly as a player. He might have even won it as a manager. Mourinho's won it a couple of times as a manager. Do you know what I mean? And your man isn't worried in the slightest to go, right, I'm sick of you. Good luck. Thanks. You've lost enough games. Happy, you know, all the best. Good luck.
Aye.
You know, so I don't know. It's a strange one. I'm just, as I said, I'm nearly more concerned with the announcement than the cup final, and that sounds really stupid. I know that sounds a really stupid statement, but I'm nearly more nervous of the announcement than I am of the cup final, because you're kind of thinking like, oh jeez, come on, he can't leave. He can't leave, like.
Oh, so what do you think? Just before we wind it up, now, what do you think for the Mora?
I think tomorrow that like they should like it's a no contest on paper. I know it's not played on paper, but they should win comfortably.
It would be an unmitigated disaster if you actually lost that, wouldn't it? Really,
it would be up there, if not worse than the John Barnes loss.
I can't see it myself. I really can't. I mean, we even say it against teams like Rangers and that. If Celtic turn up, they win. No disrespect to Inverness Cali, but even Celtic at 60-70% should be far too strong for them.
If they play the way they did, particularly in the first half against Aberdeen, or for 60 minutes like they did against Aberdeen, you know, it could. If Celtic score early, it could get ugly. It could get very ugly. You know, they could run up. They could run up a good few. But as I said, fingers crossed that it's a good solid win by Celtic tomorrow. Win the treble, and then come Monday or Sunday or Monday morning or whatever, that there's an announcement that Postecoglou staying and he's signed a new contract, and we'll all be happy.
I mean, even get back to Lecanjian. I mean, don't get us wrong, I totally agree. He could have just come out and killed it stone dead and said there was no intention of going to Spurs, but he plays these kind of games with the press all the time. It's like player injuries, you never get any updates on them, or that's not to do with me, that's the fitness and physios and stuff. Do you know what I mean? He comes out, how would you like your personal problems for injuries or whatever to be splashed all over the papers and stuff like that? So, I mean, we do know that he is, in a way, he reminds me of Gordon Strachan like that.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
People, Mikey said this earlier on, people moaned about the way Gordon Strachan was in like press conferences and that, but Ange for me he's the same. He's a very guarded in what he says, and if he doesn't want to let anyone out, he'll just give a wee wisecrack or a wee. Do you know what I mean? Or it's that kind of way. So I'm just hoping it's just that. I mean, he came out and he just says we've done this dance before. We've been there, and we have been there. We've been there. With
and no, he
Chelsea,
said he was saying like someone else was favourite last week. He said they're
I'm just hoping that it's that kind of scenario. He's just
Oh,
been
me too.
there's a chance he can get it. As I've said the other week for Ed too, there's at least one other person Spurs that want, and then they're going down the list, and Ange's on that list. So I'm just hoping that they get somebody before him. Because you've got, I mean, Terence, how would you feel? I mean, you've sat and read in the papers, Spurs, they spoke to this and they've offered this and the job and they turned it down. This one's turned it down. This one turned it down. And then all of a sudden they're coming for you.
But you could argue the same point about Eddie Howe. You know, that was the done deal at Celtic. Like,
aye. That's a fair point, I suppose. Aye.
You know, and everyone went, this and that was the thing that they were all saying about him. Oh, you're being brought in as a kind of the second choice. How would you feel about that? And he was like, well, I'm here, so I'm obviously the first choice. Do you know what I mean? I'm here. Whoever else isn't here, but I have the job, so I don't really care what.
Aye, but we knew it was,
you know what I mean?
Everybody, the man in the street knew that it wasn't the first choice.
Oh yeah, no, but what I'm saying is, he was like, well, it doesn't matter who was ever the choice. I'm the choice now, is what he was basically saying at the time. So that I understand what you're saying, but that mightn't bother him. That he might know. Well, I know they're going to like the or the manager has said no. He's turned it down, and it's fairly public. And you know, if there's one or two and they turn it down, and then they come to him, he might be like, oh, they all turned it down. I'm happy days. I'll prove everyone wrong. I hope he doesn't, but you know, that could be what he thinks, because that's exactly what he done with Celtic. Everyone gave him the thing, oh, so and so Eddie Howe was supposed to come in, but actually now you're coming in, so you really weren't the first choice, and blah blah. And he was like, well, I'm not really worried about it. I'm here now, so I'm clearly had the choice now. So I just hope he doesn't look at it the same way with the Spurs job.
Aye.
Time will tell.
As I said, hopefully we'll find out. I mean, let's hope it doesn't drag on for weeks' terms.
No, as I said, Mark, I think, to be honest, we should Celtic as a club, the way they've got themselves back running, this should either be sorted out Monday or Saturday or Sunday or Monday. Personally, Monday, if they say Postecoglou's in talks with Spurs, that's all I need to say. And if Celtic say that, then you pretty much know, right? He's more than likely he's interested in going. That's all you need to know. If he's speaking with Spurs, he's interested in going to Spurs. He's either speaking with them or he has no interest at all.
Aye,
it's not that difficult. You know,
I think it's maybe, if there is anything in that, is it something today with just waiting till after the cup final being.
Oh, I think that's 100% it. I think if Celtic were out of the cup final, we'd know it now.
And plus, is it silly cause this kind of stuff? Do we need to announce this to the stock market?
Well, they could. They may have to go through protocols, because I'm sure it will have an effect on the share price.
Imagine Ange came out in his press conference and said, I've not spoke to Spurs yet, but my agent has, or something like that. The Celtic share price would get down.
Oh, it would.
I can't. Yeah. Was it when Peter Law was leaving the CEO job? And I said you need to give something like 6 months' notice of stuff like this. And do you know what I mean? Obviously, you can't give 6 months' notice of a manager leaving, but you need to do that with the board and stuff. But I'm sure if you're announcing a manager leaving, if you're listing the stock exchange, there's got to be certain regulations. So I think could it be something like that they're waiting to after like basically. I mean, Celtic season is still ongoing, because we've still got one game to play. So the more a night our season officially finishes. Maybe
it'd be very interesting. Be very interesting to Google the Celtic share price after this conversation and see where it is. If it shows that there's a drop in the Celtic share price, you would assume he's gone. if there's a reasonable drop in the Celtic share price.
It's down 3.84%.
Right. So it's
don't know
down
what that is.
3.84%. So that to me would tell me that someone has said something. Because obviously the stock exchange closes on Friday and reopens on Monday. In London and New York and all these other places, but say for argument's sake, London. So if it's down 3.4%, Celtic are going for treble tomorrow. Why logically, why would it, go down? These things normally go down on in a sense, company wise, bad news, bad announcements, loss in profits, or normal companies or something like that.
Even rumours can
even
affect
the rumours
that.
can do it, like, yeah.
Aye.
Rumours can affect it because rumours can affect that as well. Like,
I thought your Uncle Dermot would have kept you up to pace with the share price and that.
Oh, he has. I'll tell you afterwards, though. I can't tell you over the radio. You know what I mean? I can't tell you live in air. You know what I mean? And that'd be insider trading. We can't be doing that. But look, I think by Monday they'll know.
I think so.
Will know.
I think it's going to be. I think it'll be something official in Monday.
One way or another. It's either Postecoglou's meeting with Spurs, and that means he wants the job, or Celtic have announced that Postecoglou's agreed a new 3-year deal. It's going to be one or the other, something like that.
And it will be interesting to see what he says after the game tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? It'll be a kind of interview after whether we win or lose. I mean, it's like we say to us, right? See, cups, but the Scottish Cup and the League Cup, the only place they matter in Scotland is in Scotland. As long as Rangers don't win it, do you know what I mean? Outside that, it's like even see fans went to Spurs. Winning the FA Cup means nothing down there. The fans get a nice day out, but they're no bragging. Do you know what I mean? They're no running about bragging. Oh, Man City won the league, but we won the FA Cup and stuff like that. So there's that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's go to Spurs. An FA Cup or a League Cup's not going to keep you in a job down there.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Like,
Hopefully fans. No, I mean even after the game tomorrow, maybe we even come out and say something.
Well, I think above all, Mark, if it isn't said Sunday, it needs to be said for the fans on the Monday. The fans deserve to know one way or another. If he's going, say you're going, and if you're staying, say you're staying.
It's like a dark cloud, isn't it? I mean, we're going to put 8 trebles. That's a world record. But it's that even another closer step to being the world's most successful club and stuff like that. And just the full cup final just been overshadowed with this stuff about Ange.
And that's what I'm saying. Every fan is going to the match tomorrow. Obviously, they're all hoping for Celtic to win. There's a lot of expectation that they will win. But I guarantee if Sky Sports are outside the ground going into, the majority of questions will be, do you think Ange's going to go to Spurs? It won't be, do you think you're going to win or lose today? Do you think Ange's going to go to Spurs? That will be the question that's going to be asked.
And to a certain extent as well, with Ange's answering the press conference, you can see why he gets peed off about answering this all the time. About questions about the Chelsea job, questions about this job, questions about the Spurs job. So in a way you can understand that, but he could have still just nipped it in the bud right away.
Well, I can understand the annoyance on the other jobs, Mark, because he was, in a sense, he was linked, but nothing major. This is as concrete an offer as come out that basically Postecoglou is one of Spurs' main men, and they've come out and they've allegedly said it.
But see, really, for what I've seen in that, see, apart from Sky Sports and most of like the Scottish media, no many of the English media is running with it. They seem to think it's more like, is it Luis Enrique? Was that the name they were meant? I can't remember. I think.
The Spanish manager.
Aye, it's as if as I said, I stayed too, and he says there's people that they want to get the job before Postecoglou, but he is definitely in the mix. And one of the other managers, even at that, is surely going to maybe take a plunge on it. Even
it's the Premier League, so for a lot of them to managing the Premier League. It's like a player
And
playing in the Premier League, you know.
a dream come true for them.
Yeah, and if they're any bit successful in as well, they, their pedigree goes right through the roof, like. So I don't know. Time will tell. We'll find out soon enough, anyway.
There you go, you, Dave. We were here before, and we'll be here after, and the club is bigger than any man. Brilliant statement, you, Dave. I think we'll just leave it at that then, Terry.
Yeah, I think so. Without a doubt, that's a nice way to finish.
I just thought that myself. Thanks very much, Ter, for coming on tonight. I really appreciate that. And just before I go, I wasn't going to say anything, but everybody, Ter get the all clear for the hospital the other day. That's him. Brilliant news. For him and his wife and kid and that. Absolutely fantastic. So you're going to be listening to him a lot more again. He had a wee break. And believe it or not, we're back tomorrow night after again, because Paul's wanted to do a podcast because he's out on Sunday night, so we'll be back tomorrow night. I don't know if you're available, Ter, but if you're, you're more than welcome, but we'll be doing that anyway. Thanks very much for everybody that listens to us live, all the guys in the live chat, everybody that listens to us through YouTube, through the forum, on Spotify, and that. Really, really appreciate it. And if you know how, if you remember, hit the like button. And if you know how to leave a comment, please do. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Hail, hail, good night, and God bless.